In this video, we are going to go over the most missed questions on the study guide. It's going to be about 4 or 5 of them, just to help prepare you all for the test a wee bit more. All right. So without delaying, we're going to get right into it. All right. Let me move this out of the way. And here's where we are. The number one, maybe not the number one most missed question, but one of the most missed questions was this one here. Question 4. It reads, during Roland's senior year of college, he got hired at 2 new jobs. During the weekdays, he worked in the school library and made L, and L is equal to x squared plus 4x minus 7. And I'm assuming L is for library. And then it says he also worked at Sheets, which is just a better version of Wawa, on the weekend where he made S. S stands for Sheets. S is equal to 5x squared plus 11x minus 9. He made that per week. The question is to write an expression for how much more money Roland makes at Sheets than working at the college's library. All right. So the setup for this question is going to be L, not L, I'm sorry, it's going to be S since it's how much more money he's making at Sheets. We're going to do S minus L. Okay. That's how we're going to set this up. So our equation for S is going to be 5x squared plus 11x minus 9. And then we have to subtract L. Minus, and my L is x squared plus 4x minus 7. All right. And this is how we're going to set this up. And now when we have subtraction, remember we have to go through and distribute that minus sign to everything in the polynomial that comes right after it. So we have a negative x, a negative 4, and a positive 7. And after we've distributed everything, that minus becomes a plus. And then we actually go through and add up our like terms. We have, let me go ahead and underline those for you, a 5x squared and a negative x squared. We have an 11x and a negative 4x. And we also have a negative 9 and a 7. So when we go through and add all these together, 5x squared plus a negative x squared gives us a 4x squared. And then we have this 11x plus this negative 7, or plus this negative 4x, I'm sorry, gives us a plus 7x. And then finally, we have this negative 9 plus 7, and that's going to leave us with minus 2. All right, 4x squared plus 7x minus 2. That's going to be your answer. And now the ordering may be different when you look at your answer choices. For me, it's B. For you, when you're looking at it, it might be a C or a D or even B. All right, so keep that in mind. But that's how we do this question here. This was question 4, one of the more missed ones. The next one we are going to look at will be question 5. And as always, if I am going a bit fast, you can pause, rewind, play it back if you need to. And if you still aren't getting it, come to the Zoom and ask for help there. On to number 5. Number 5 says, find the perimeter of the rectangle. And I know this is one where a lot of students struggle when they are introduced to a slightly new idea. But this one, although we are looking for perimeter, it gives us the formula for perimeter. It says perimeter is equal to 2L plus 2W. Now, if you don't know which one's the length and which one's the width, there's only 2, and you're going to be adding them. So it doesn't really matter too much. We could say this one's L and this one's W, or vice versa. What is important, though, is that we actually multiply by the 2 and then add them. So to set this up, my perimeter is going to be equal to 2, since I have this as my L. So 2 times 5x minus 2 plus 2 times 4x squared plus 3. All right, so my first step, and I know a lot of you all like the box method. The box method takes a while because you got to draw the boxes. So I'm just going to be doing the distribution method when I have to do these types of problems. This 2 needs to get distributed to that 5x and to that negative 2. And then on the other side, it needs to get distributed to this 4x squared and that 3. And I'm going to do both of those all in one step. This 2 times this 5x gives me a 10x. 2 times a negative 2 gives me a negative 4. Plus 2 times 4x squared gives me 8x squared. 2 times 3 gives me plus 6. And now finally, I go through and combine my like terms. Oop. And now here's where it gets tricky. You saw me underline that 8x squared in red because I was expecting that to also be the same as this 10x, but we don't actually have a like term with that. So that one gets its own color. The 10x gets its own color. And then the only set of like terms we have is this -4 and this 6. So when we go and write these out, I mentioned it once before, but not a ton. We write it out in standard form with our highest exponent, that term coming first. So our 8x squared followed by this 10x, and then this -4 plus this 6 gives me a +2. So 8x squared plus 10 plus 2. And that's going to be, this one is A for me. For you, it might be something different. And like I said with the last one, if I moved a little bit too fast, you can always go rewind, play it back as many times as you needed to. That's the purpose of these videos, so you can watch it as many times as you need to prepare. And then if you still aren't getting it, come on to the Zoom chat. All right, next one will be number 9. Number 9 is one that I think a lot of students get confused. You know what? Actually, no, I'm going to go to 7 first, and then I'm going to go to 9. Number 7 says, use the key below to find the sum of these two polynomials. All right, and I think just algebra tiles in general may be confusing. And so I'm going to show you a method for how to do this type of problem. So instead of trying to do the algebra tiles first and match it up and then do the math, it's a whole lot quicker to add these two polynomials together and then do your algebra tiles. So we got a 2x squared with an x squared there. And always, always, always go ahead and underline or circle your like terms to make sure you know what you're looking for. So we've got a 2x squared and an x squared, a 3x with the x, and then a -6 with that 7. When we go to combine these like terms, we get 2x squared plus x squared gives us 3x squared. 3x plus x gives us 4x, And then finally, -6 plus 7 is just 1, plus 1. Okay. And then the key, we've got the white blocks are positives, the black blocks are negatives. The big square is x squared. The rectangle is x, and the little square is just 1. So we need 3 big squares, 4 little squares, or 4 rectangles, and then 1 little square. And that's going to be this option here. Okay. We got 3 big squares, x squared, x squared, x squared, x, and 1. All right. See, that one isn't too bad. And it also gives us a key, which is really useful. And this is a great kind of review piece before we move on to number 9, which is the next one. Number 9 says, select the product represented by this diagram. And this is something we touched on Friday with that Desmos activity. The way we do these, instead of looking at the entire thing, which a lot of students want to do, we only need to look at the very right row, this one here, and the very bottom row. Okay, just these 2 rows. We have an x here, a 1, a 1, a 1, and a 1 for that very bottom row. And then the very right row, we have an x, a 1, a 1, and a 1. Okay. When we are trying to select the product that makes this set of algebra tiles, we only look at the very bottom row, this very bottom row in green, and the very, very right row in burgundy. When we look at those two, we simply count out what those algebra tiles would be. So this one, I have x, so that's going to be 2x. Oop, wrong color. That's going to be 2x plus 4. And then finally, on this side here, we've got an x. Let me actually set this up correctly and use the right colors. We have just one x, and then 1, 2, 3 ones, okay, plus 3. And that's how you set it up. You look at the very bottom and the very right. If you wanted to go check yourself, you can multiply these things out together to make sure you did it correctly. So if I multiply these out, I'd have this 2x times that x, that gives me a 2x squared. And that's looking right because I have an x squared there and an x squared there. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you see the picture. You can check yourself when you do these to make sure you are doing them right. And I know this one can be confusing. So if you need more help on this and rewinding it and rewatching it doesn't help, definitely come back to the Zoom and we will get you going with this one. All right. And then I have just one more because I don't want the video to be too long for you all. This is another one that a lot of students were confused on. The area of a rectangle. Anytime we mixed up or added in some different things you guys hadn't seen, it seemed like it was a bit of a shocker and something that you all struggle with. This one, we gave you the formula um, the formula for the area of a rectangle. And this one, it says A is equal to L times W. Once again, if you're not quite sure what L and W are, these things are multiplication and addition, like we had with perimeter. Both of those things are commutative, which means we can arrange them in whatever order we need to. And so whichever one we pick, it doesn't really matter. Last time I picked this one as L and this one as W, I can reverse it and we'd still get the same answer. This time, just for the sake of learning, I'll leave them the same. A is equal to L times W. My L is 2x minus 3, and my W is 4x plus 5. And what we do, we just go and we add these. This 2x goes to the 4x and to the 5, and this negative 3 goes to the 4x and also to the 5. And what we get as an answer is going to be 2, not 2, I'm sorry. It's going to be 8, because 2 times 4 is 8, and then x times x is x squared. So 8x squared, then 2x times 5 gives us a 10x, and then negative 3 times positive 4 gives us a negative 12x, and then finally we have negative 3 times 5, positive 5, which gives us a negative 15. And now here, we're not going to stop. We do have a set of like terms we can combine, and when we combine those, our final answer is 8x squared minus 2x minus 15, okay? Minus 15, all right? This was the last one I wanted to go over, but I did want to quickly give a hint for one of them. It was the one where you had a polynomial raised to a power. I don't remember exactly which one it was. Here it is, the very last one. Number 14. We treat these the same way we did before. With, I suppose we want to treat them very specifically in the way we did them. One of the methods we learned when dealing with laws of exponents was expansion, which was to write these things out completely. And that's the method we want to take when we go and we do these. Before we could just distribute that power of 2 to what was in the parentheses. But when we're working with these, it's important for us to write these things out in an expanded form. So this 2x minus 5 squared needs to be written out as 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 5, all right? Because you get very different answers if you don't. If you just distribute the power of the 2, you get a 4x squared minus 25. And if this was the only thing that was there for that, that might work. But however, when you go and you expand it this way, let's do that one in a slightly different color. When you expand it, you end up with a 4x squared. That's 2x times 2x, and then 2x times negative 5 minus 10x. I guess I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing. 2x times the negative 5 gives us a negative 10x, and then this negative 5 times this 2x gives us a negative 10x, and then negative 5 times negative 5 gives us positive 25, okay? So you see the difference in here when we go and we combine this like term to write out our final simplified answer. We see that when we write it in expanded form, the way we should be doing it, we have an extra term in here that we didn't account for, an extra term that we don't get when we just distribute that exponent, okay? So when you're doing polynomials to a power, you need to go ahead and expand that, all right? Like I said before, if you have any questions on any of these, rewind it, rewatch it. If you have a question on one of the ones that I hadn't gone over in this video, definitely come back to the Zoom chat and ask the questions there. If you have a question or you can't figure out what's going on, definitely come back and ask it there, okay? Hopefully this was beneficial and helpful to everyone. And as always, if you need more help, definitely come back and ask, all right?